So I'm recording through this, so hopefully they can. It's going to sound like I'm on a phone call. And if you have a question, I may come over and to do this. So, hello. All right. So anyways, I probably look so stupid. I need to get like a little Bluetooth thing. Someone could, get me that for. Yeah. Go. Hook me up with one. Okay. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully this is all right to the first WHAP Legends. But anyways, what we're going to be hitting on here today and then tomorrow is the Middle Ages period, the medieval period is the more appropriate term. And that really kind of draws in the article, the comparisons between Europe and Japan with terms of in terms of feudalism. And so I really want to kind of take you through some highlights here of this time period. And the term here, medieval, I would really say try not to allow Middle Ages or Dark Ages to creep in. Always refer to this transition period in world history as medieval period. And the reason being, a lot of historians they get a little bit offended by the fact that you say Middle Ages as if this almost, 1,000-year period just kind of happens. It's like right in the middle of things. No, this is almost a 1,000-year period of history, the medieval period. And the other thing is, it's very common for people to think it only means Europe. Well, look, other parts of the world were undergoing their own transformations in this so-called medieval period. I talked about, the Byzantines, and I talked about the Tang Chinese the other day. Well, we have to realize that medieval is a near 1,000-year period. And I'm going to start with Europe. I mean, Europe is going to be sort of where I kickstart this whole process. But when I say medieval period, I mean Middle Ages, which are sometimes called Dark Ages. But I would prefer to have you guys use medieval as the time period, all right, medieval. Because it wasn't the type of one consistent ruler, one consistent empire that dominated, most of Europe. Dark Ages, often refers to as periods that lack cultural growth, but it's actually it's really, that's why I want you to not use Dark Ages. It's really not a good term, because there was cultural growth and there was a lot of diffusion of ideas and of European cultures. Now we'll start with Europe today, and we'll probably get more about Europe tomorrow, but then we'll kind of hit Japan too, because Japan and Europe have a lot in common around this time period, and a lot of it has to do with what you heard over the weekend. But again, let's use medieval. We all make that adjustment. Try not to use Middle Ages. Use medieval. Now, the time period really begins with the fall of the Roman Empire. This medieval period. There was a question on the most recent test that asked about historians can agree upon one thing, whether it's 500 or 600, but they all agree. You remember the question that was like, what do they agree on? And the answer was the fall of the Roman Empire. That Roman Empire collapse was a transition point in world history, especially European history. Think about the direction that the Byzantine Empire goes, but Western Europe is where we're focusing on here for our discussion on the medieval period, Western Europe. Eastern Europe was under Byzantine rule, so they kind of have a little bit of a different circumstance. And the end, of course, would be with the Renaissance, Age of Discovery, which we'll talk about later down the road. And I believe Renaissance is where most of your 6th grade teachers got. Is that accurate? Roughly, Renaissance? You moved a little. Okay, that's good to know. You went a little forward. But yeah, so that gives you that's almost 10 centuries of time here. And that's, again, why a lot of historians don't like that concept of Middle Ages. Oh, yeah, Middle Ages, right in the middle, and we know how many middle children are in here or watching at home. Any middle child? We don't have one person in here that's a middle child? That's absolutely crazy. That's unbelievable. What are the odds? What? Well, I think it's unusual to not have a single person in out of 28 that's not a middle child. So I was going to make a middle child analogy, but it's going to go over pretty poorly in here. So I'll just move on from that. But anyways, let's not disrespect this 1,000 years of history as just, oh yeah, it's right in the middle. Stick it in the middle and then let's move on. No, this is a pretty important time period, especially for Western Europe. That's the key here. I should have probably written Western Europe, because Eastern Europe we know is under Byzantine rule, and that means something different. Yeah, almost all of Eastern Europe was under the Byzantines. Now, the first, what I'm going to do is kind of take you through some highlights of medieval Europe. And one of the most important, I feel really dumb carrying this around, by the way, but still do it. One of the real important parts is who was the big power player. With the Roman Empire collapsing in Western Europe, you don't have one big empire in power of everything. What organization or group of organizations or institution, I should say, really became the most powerful in all of Western Europe during the medieval time? What institution, what organization became the most powerful and influential person or group of people in Western Europe? Avi? Avi's answer was the Catholic Church, and that's absolutely correct. I have to repeat your answer because I don't think it's going to pick up from where you are. The Catholic Church. Absolutely. The Catholic Church is absolutely synonymous with the medieval period. I use the fancier word omnipotent. Does anyone know what omnipotent means? Or omnipotent? Omnipotent? It's a weird word to say, especially into a Bluetooth speaker. Chalked it up as things I never thought I'd do in life. Speak omnipotent into a Bluetooth speaker. But omnipotent or omnipotent, you can kind of get away with both. Dinger?
It's like the most powerful thing, like it knows everything.
Yeah, something that's omnipotent or omnipotent is all-powerful. All-powerful. So the Catholic Church, that's a great word to describe the Catholic Church. An omnipotent organization. Now, I put it into more colloquial 8th grade language, although I think the term like a boss has kind of gone away, hasn't it? That was like 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, like 10 years ago.
It was not 10 years ago. But, you know, when you guys use the term, oh, he's like a boss or she's like a boss, that they're all powerful. And that was the Catholic Church in the medieval period. Key point, as Rome fell apart, there was a power vacuum. We've used that term plenty of times. But here's where you have one of the more bizarre occurrences, Anand, in the entirety of world history. Now, instead of an empire coming to power, you have the church. You have the church being the real power player in Western Europe, specifically the Catholic Church. We know that Christianity is eventually going to split. But early on in the medieval period, the Catholic Church becomes the real power player. And so if you're a king or you're a local leader of your tribe, to organize and to affiliate with the Catholic Church meant power. The church held the power. So leaders began to jockey for position to work with the church, to get the church's blessing, both literally and figuratively, I suppose. And there's a really good example of a leader who did this. He collaborated, he aligned with the Pope, and as a result, he built one of the biggest post-Roman empires in Western Europe. Does anybody know what leader I'm referring to? He aligned with the Pope. The Pope crowned him new emperor of Europe. King George? No. We're a long way away from a King George being an important person. Shivansh? You guys know this guy. We've read him. We've talked about him. Charlemagne, yeah. Charlemagne is a textbook example of one of these kings in the medieval period who aligned his empire with the church. You know, Charlemagne was the king of the Franks, but the Pope, in a very formal ceremony on Christmas Day in 800, granted Charlemagne the keys to what the Pope called the New Roman Empire, or the Holy Roman Empire, the HRE. Rome was gone. We know that Rome, as it once lasted, is officially gone. What? It included parts of Germany, but initially it mostly included France, because that's where Charlemagne was king of the Franks. But the Pope says, okay, Charles the Great, Charlemagne, you're now going to become the king of this new Holy Roman Empire. We're going to align our power. We're going to ally together and create a super powerful organization. See, the Roman Empire of the past didn't necessarily align with the church that officially. Rome may have been the official religion, but in this case, you got Pope and King together now. And that led to an awfully powerful alliance. Pope and King together. I don't have this word on the slide, and I hope that everyone in the back could maybe see it. What type of religion? There's a word for this. We hear this a lot today in modern politics. When you have government and church very close together, it's a hyphenated word. It's not theocracy. Theocracy is like an official religion, is the head of the government. But in this case, we have the relationship. We've got church plus state together. Here we're combining church and state, Charlemagne and the Pope. Does anybody know what the hyphenated phrase is for that type of government? Not a church state. A theocracy would be like if the church was it all, like the church was the government. In this case, the church and the government are working together. And the word I'm looking for is non-secular. Non-secular. Secular means church and state are separate. Non-secular is what we get with the Holy Roman Empire. Church and state worked together. They collaborated, they allied to become a super powerful, omnipotent force. But let this be a reminder for everybody out there watching at home or anybody in here. A hallmark of the Middle Ages is without a doubt the power of the Catholic Church. Mr. Ding pointed out that the Holy Roman Empire included much of Germany, modern-day Germany. That is absolutely correct. But the home base of the Holy Roman Empire under Charlemagne was France, which is why to this day France is a predominantly Catholic country. This goes way back to tracing roots to Charlemagne. But the map is pretty obvious. This was a widespread realm that Charlemagne took on, including most of southern Europe, Italy, going even as far into Eastern Europe where the Byzantines were located. But much of modern-day Germany and Switzerland were all under the Holy Roman Empire. So Charlemagne had quite a massive spread. And over time, actually, the Holy Roman Empire would shrink a little bit. But I want to point out one thing, and I can't quite tell if it's going to be clear on the video. But down here, we've got the Papal States. I would make a note about the Papal States. These were the states that were owned and operated, and the control of the government was whose? Papal. Who operated and controlled the Papal States? Yeah, the Pope. That was the head of the Catholic Church, like the Vatican, Rome, Vatican City. Would you like that? Truve is very excited if you can't tell. He went to the Vatican, so have I. Anybody else been in the Vatican?
I've been to the one in Vegas.
That would be the Venetian. The Venetian. I've been to I don't think there's a the Papal States are in Vegas. I think Vegas is the last place where the Pope's headquarters would be. So let that be that's recorded on record there. I won't say any names. But okay. Come on, that's not cool. And then note this: we've got Spain. This is not the appropriate term, but according to the Europeans, they have the Mohammedans. Mohammedans, which of course would be what group of people? Who did Charlemagne constantly go to war with? What empire that conquered Spain? Brock? Well, yeah, the Islamic dynasty, the Umayyads. Yeah. So we know from the Song of Roland how Charlemagne was constantly at war with the Islamic caliphates and whatnot. So note Islam's presence, and that's going to be a sort of a teaser for tomorrow's class. We're almost out of time here, but again, Holy Roman Empire demonstrates an important point: combination of church plus state, a non-secular powerhouse is created. And we'll talk more about this point tomorrow, about ordinary folks, so we'll hang on to that. We'll pick up where we left off. First hour, this is pretty quick, but try to get this in tonight. Thanks for watching. To you guys, have a good class. See you later, everybody.